Hello, this is Benny's Code, and today we are doing part 2 of how to create a weather app in React. So in part 1, we used the API, Open Weather, and got the data and console logged it out, which you are seeing on the screen now. So in this part, we are going to um, make a new component for each day, but we're only going to make one component, but we're going to render it for each day because we're going to map through this daily thing you have here, and for each component it's going to be given each object inside the array, and that way we can be displaying um, different days. And yeah, so let's get right into it. If we go back over to our code, this is where we left off. We had console log here. The first step would be to get rid of this console log and instead use this state up here that we made last time. We're going to use set weather data to set the state to the data that we're getting, so that way we can use it by calling weather data, and that's what we'll be mapping through. So let's start off by writing out set weather data, just like that. Open and close, and data, the same thing we were console logging. And to add onto this, before we move on, I'm going to throw a dot catch, just in case there's any errors, we can resolve them, or at least see them easier. Console log dot, just console log that error. Alright, so that should be good to go. But now to check whether or not this data was actually set, we can pop a couple new lines and write out if weather data, so if it exists, then we just want to console log that weather data. And what this will do is most likely not render out or console log the first render, but once this gets set, it will refresh or reload it and it will console log it out. So if we save that and hop back over to our browser and we refresh, if it loads, we should be getting the same exact thing, but at this time we're console logging the variable we stored it in, or the state. Alright, nice. So let's hop back over, and now we are going to create a new component to render that out, and we'll be calling to it right where this h1 is. So in our weather folder, we can create a new folder, a file, and let's call it daily. Daily weather.js. You can also name it whatever you want, of course. And to get the boilerplate in here, we are going to do RFCE, and then if that autofills for you, click enter. If it does not autofill for you, feel free to just write this out, what you see on the screen. Yeah, awesome. So we are going to just leave this, let's just make it an H3, lowercase h3. Yeah, that will be good for now. So let's save that, go back to our weather component where we have all of the stuff going on, and up top, right after we import React, we can now import that component that we created. So daily weather, and that should be from, if you have it in the same folder, it should just be /weather, or daily weather. Close that off, and now below this h1 we can do daily weather, just like that. And now that, whoops, slash close, and now that should be displaying our H3 that says daily weather. Now, of course, that's not all we're going to be doing with it. So let's hop back over. And now instead of just displaying this once, we want to map through each day. So however many days there are, or however many days you're mapping through, this component will be displayed each time. So make a new line after the H1, and we'll start it off by opening and closing curly brackets and saying weather data. So if weather data, we're going to be using a different kind of if statement. And this just says if this weather data exists, do everything after this question mark. So here, and then if it does not exist, do everything else after this colon. So let's pop these onto new lines, and what we're gonna put here is our map. So we have to do weather data dot daily, because that's the array, and dot do I want to? Yes. Okay, so we are going to actually slice. So this part is not required, but I only want the first 5 days, and there's 8 items in the array. So we can do slice just like that, and then 0, comma 5. So what this will do is it's telling it I only want from 0 indexed to 5 indexed, and that will just grab the first 5. And then we got to do dot map, and in this dot map we can do day, and then arrow, open up new lines, and make a return. And this is where we will be returning that weather component. Or actually we can just cut it out from down here and put it right in this return. And that will be fine for now. And then in our else, else doesn't matter too much, but we can just do in H2 that says loading. So if it does not, if we don't receive this data, we don't want to try to display it, otherwise it will break the website. So we want to just return loading instead. If we save that and go back to our site, it should be loading. I can make this console smaller. It should be loading out that component 5 times, which it is, which is great. That's that our map is done, and that's awesome. So now we need to be displaying the data that the map actually has. So if we head back, and we're getting some errors here that are pointing to a unique key. So map items like a unique key, so we'll add that. So in this map, we want to do another opening and closing parentheses around this dot I. So that I is just going to be an index. It's just going to be a number from 0 to 5. And in here, we can add that as a key, and we can just give it I. Perfect. Okay, that'll fix that error. But now we want to actually send daily weather some information. So we can open it up and send it something. So we can pop this onto a new line to make it look a little nicer. Let's tab this in, get some tabs in there. Okay, awesome. So now what do we want to send it? Well, first of all, we can send it the date. So we can name this date num, which will be a number, and we can give that by going day dot dt. And if you remember looking at the console log, the dt number is what we have to convert into an actual date. So we will get to that later. What else do we want? We could go temp max and then the minimum temperature, and oh, also the icon. So yeah, let's do the icon first. We can do a day icon like that, open curly brackets, and this is a little weirder. So what we're gonna need to do, so the stored date on here, or the stored icon, is only a number or a letter or something, and we need an actual URL. So if we go back to the weather API, I will link to this in the description, and also it should be in the GitHub repo. So here we are. It requires something like this, right? And that will give us this icon. So we need our special icons, and this is how it works. So we want to copy this URL, copy like that, go back over to the code and paste it in. Well, we need template literals around it, but this isn't just it. So this 10D indicates which icon we're getting. So instead of this 10D, we gotta back out and put in a variable, which will be the icon that is saved in our state. So right here, we can do, what is it? Day dot weather at the index of 0 dot icon. That should work, but if it does not, we can come back to this, but that is what it's supposed to look like. So we want to, yeah, so we're grabbing that icon and putting it into a URL that is hosted on the API's site. All right, now into a new line, we are going to give the temp, the max temperature, and the low temperature. So we can call this temp high and equal that to day dot temp dot max, and then after that we can do the temp low equals temp, yeah, temp min. Perfect. Okay, awesome. Now to receive this, we need to, I'm just going to copy, no, save this, and then if we go back to the component that we're sending this to, we need to receive it through props. So curly brackets to destructure it. And what did we name these? Date num, date icon. So date num, comma, day icon, comma, temp high. Alright, sorry that my recorder kept freezing up. I just want to remind you all the code is on the GitHub, and you'll eventually see the code again. My recorder just froze up for a little bit. So sorry about that, but the code is on the GitHub, and feel free to pause it as you go. To make a div, because React's returns can only have one element, so it needs a parent. Awesome. Ooh, whoops. Tab these in. Okay, and now instead of having daily weather here twice, we can put in curly brackets and display some of our stuff. So let's go date num, and I'm just gonna copy this down a few times. And what else do we need? Temp high and temp low. Oh, and these are just gonna be weird long numbers because we haven't converted them over to anything visible yet. So if we go back over to our React app, we should see unique numbers for each day. So here's the first day, it's 63:40. And here's the second day, the high is 71. low is 43. So awesome, we got some data here. So now now all we need is the icons, and then convert this weird long number into something useful. Awesome. So now we can just make a image. So this day icon here is a URL, and we need that to be a source and an image. So let's say right under daily weather, we can do an image tag. And in this image tag, or actually I'm going to make this self-closing like that. And we want to give it the source of that day icon, just like that. And now this might be massive, but it should be working. And there we go. We got our icons. So this is just sunny, cloudy, rainy, and yeah, icons are pretty basic, but we got them there and they are looking good. All right, what do we want to do next? So we could start converting the date over. So that super long, weird date number you see can be converted into words, normal days. So we can start doing that by opening before this return, or yeah, there we go. Before this return, we could pop a couple new lines and we can set it as a new date. So I'm actually going to want to console log this each time so that way we can see what's really going on. And day icon like that. And after that, we can do day icon icon equals new date, open some parentheses, and then we can do day, or no. Oh, whoops, I am doing the wrong thing. We're supposed to be grabbing date num. My bad. This as well is supposed to be date num. And now in the date, we do date num times 1000. And I will explain this later, but there we go, times 1000. So now we want to console log this again to see what that does. And yeah, okay, awesome. Now we can go back over to our site. Okay, so these massive error messages were from after we converted this number into a date, which you can see here, which is working. And we got the date, the day, the date, the year, and the time. So there's still quite a lot of conversion needed here. However, we got the date and it's been turned into an object, which means that this React H2 header cannot be displaying an object. So we can just comment this out for now until we're fully done converting it into a day. So we can save that, go back and refresh, and it should be working. As long as it can load. Yeah, okay, awesome. It's loading and everything's still rendering. We're just not putting out that date num just yet. So now if we go back to the code, we can see that we got this date super long, so now we need to shorten it up. So we want to get just the day out of it. So date num dot get day, just like that. And now we want to console log this again just to see it. And now we can set some options which we will use in the next date time format. So we can do let options equals an object which is going to be weekday just like that. And in quotes, we can do short, long, or whatever you want. So there are a couple options here. I'm going to be choosing short to get an abbreviated version of the word, so it's easier to display. All right, now that we got that, we can set the date num to a new format by doing until dot date time format, and I am in the US, so I'm going to be doing English US, comma, and this is where we put those options that we just made, and close that off, dot format, and we are going to be formatting that date num just like that. Alright, now if we console log it again, we should have our final result of a short date. Save that, go back over to our screen, refresh it, and here we go. Okay, so it's console logging out all right for each day. Okay, so it starts off at this number, and then once we create a new date, it goes to this long thing, and then we get the day out of it, and we make that date time format, which brings it to a abbreviated version, because in the weekday we put short, but if you were to put it to long, it would be the full thing, and that is completely up to you. All right, so we got our date. Now we can display it again. So if we go back, uncomment this line right here, this should be working just like that. And if we go back, awesome, it is working. We can bring that down. And we got Friday, we got Saturday, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Awesome. So now we got our daytime there. Now all we have to do is put a degrees symbol there, if you will. We can put like a Fahrenheit symbol or something like that right next to it, kind of just to make sure that the user knows that it's degrees and what we're referring to. So yeah, so let's go back to code. We can clean up these console logs, but of course that is totally up to you. You can keep them to learn from them. I'm going to delete them. And okay, now we got our date. So in our, okay, so we got our date, we got our icon. Now we can do the temperature. All right, so in this temperature high right here, we can slice it again just like we did to that array where we only want the first couple things. Well, since we have 2 decimal points there, we don't really need decimal points because it's an average temperature high and temperature low anyway. So the decimal points don't matter all that much. So what we can do here is do dot to string, so that way it converts it to a string, so it's that way it's not a number because you can't slice a number, and then dot slice like that, and we will do the first 2 just like that. Now if it's over 100, we might need to change that to 3 just for a safety, but that's okay with me for now. And this next part, okay, so yeah, that's good. That will abbreviate it and cut off the decimal points. But after that, if we want that symbol, the degrees symbol, we can put in a and symbol, a hashtag, x lowercase 2109, and then semicolon. Now this is a code so that way the computer knows to put that symbol. I got this from W3 Schools. It's a great resource for stuff like this, and I would suggest you look it up if you ever want anything similar. Um, all right, so now we can copy this whole thing, copy, and put a dot here, Command V. Oh, get rid of that, and okay, awesome. Now it should be doing it to both of them. So now if we hop back over, and awesome, yeah, so it has the degree symbol with the Fahrenheit, and it chopped the decimal points off. So that's looking a lot nicer. Of course, if you want to keep the decimal points, just don't do the slice. And if you want Celsius, I would look up W3 schools and find Celsius on there. That is totally up to you. All right, awesome. All right, so we got the day up there, abbreviated version of the day, the icon, and the high and low of the temperature for each day. So now that we got that, in part 3, I will be going through the geolocator, which will get the browser's location to give us different data, so that way you can just automatically get your local weather. Also, we will be working a lot on styling because right now it's just in an ugly list, but we'll break that up into little squares and make it look nice. Okay, awesome. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.